Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're here to review another movie for you. Today we're going to tell you how we felt about Non-Stop. Brandon, tell us a little bit about Non-Stop.
Alright, Non-Stop follows the story of a U.S. Air Marshal, as played by Liam Neeson, on board a U.S. international flight to Europe somewhere. Follows the Air Marshal Bill as he tries to uncover a conspirator's plot to extort money and blow up a plane over the mid-Atlantic.
And most importantly, is being framed for being the guy who is doing that.
Indeed, he is being framed during the movie, and he tries to figure out why against all odds and against the unsupportive superiors for which he works.
And the kind of initial conceit built in is that like whoever's doing this is supposed to kill someone every 20 minutes, which the previews build up as a bigger deal than it ultimately ends up being.
And ends up being kind of minuscule compared to the overall ideas presented in this movie.
Yeah, because they're trying to subvert your expectations and stuff. It's that kind of thriller. Brandon, how did you feel about Non-Stop?
This movie made me feel like I had a vested interest in getting off the plane alive. This movie really drove me into it.
So you felt like you were there. I was
really invested in this movie.
Oh, great. All right, cool.
And this movie really did it for me. I found lots of likable things. I could really relate to the characters. I will say this, I've never given much of a thought to movies that take place in enclosed spaces. I've never gone to see anything like that.
So this one changed your mind about that?
It did, indeed. I have to give a little more credit to movies like this, and maybe I have to go review a few, to take a look at a few that I haven't seen before. I was really pulled in by the character of Bill, this U.S. Air Marshal. I really felt for his situation. Within the context of this movie, it really did look it looked to officials on the ground that this was being instigated by who they were thinking it was being instigated by. And the subterfuge in this movie really threw me for lots of curves. I was never sure exactly what was going to happen next, and characters that I thought were going to be more of a problem turned out to be less of a problem, and characters that I thought were going to be less of a problem turned out to be more of a problem. That's one thing that I really, really liked about this movie. There's something that I didn't like about this movie, and that was towards the end of the movie, they make a huge case about air pressure. And that's all I'll say about that, except to say that when the air pressure does change, that huge case they made becomes null and void.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. So that was something that really kind of took me out of the movie. But
so
at the
are
same
you saying that it wasn't realistic enough, or are you saying that they just didn't pay it off right?
Well, they didn't pay it off right, because it was totally realistic what they were talking about, and then that thing happens, and what they said was going to happen didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's right. But the suspense is there. It really drew me into this movie. That what they were trying to do was a suspense thriller. It got me. It was a suspense thriller. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, and I had my reservations about it, but I really enjoyed it.
Okay, all right. Brandon, this movie made me feel entertained, marginally thrilled, but not wholly satisfied by the end.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I liked this one quite as much as you did. I think it's decent. I enjoyed myself. I'm glad I went. I think it's a good popcorn thriller.
What do you mean by popcorn thriller?
I mean, it's a popcorn thriller. It's a movie that it's not a real hard thinking film. You know
okay,
what I mean?
I gotcha.
It's a film you just go in and kind of have a good time and enjoy yourself.
Gotcha.
This movie reminded me of things like Phone Booth, which is a movie I like a lot. Like those kind of thrillers. You were talking a lot about like being in enclosed spaces.
Yes.
The thing I was enjoying the most about this movie that I found myself disappointed by a little bit in the end was the manipulation. Like I was really enjoying all of the kind of like taunting and teasing going on through the text messages. I really enjoyed how much storytelling was being done over phones.
Okay.
And I thought that was a really cool contemporary way to do this. Maybe typical, maybe obvious, but I liked the way they did it. The word choice was cool. Like the way that whoever is manipulating the air marshal is doing this is really interesting and kind of fun, and that's where a lot of the suspense was.
Sure.
Once it quit doing that, I wasn't quite as with it. And I'm not saying that it had to do that the entire way through. I'm saying that by the end, when we finally find out who it really is, I wasn't shocked like I expected to be. I found myself the whole movie going, who in the world could possibly pull this off? What I'm saying is I didn't find myself all that surprised.
Okay. I did, and that speaks to kind of a difference in our movie-going attitudes, I think.
Yeah, well, and experiences, and
Sure.
we don't have to sit here and apologize for when we don't agree.
Oh, of course not.
You found that surprising enough. I was a little bit let down by it. It wasn't goofy obvious. It wasn't stupid obvious. There are a couple of
Thank
people
goodness.
that they give you that are red herrings, that they give you a sense of this might be it. That if it was them, I would have been like, no.
There's one
And
very
then
early on that they do that with.
Well, they do it with several very early on.
absolutely.
They follow certain people around the camera to make you think it might be them, and it does end up being one of the people that we've seen on screen quite a bit, and I'm not. And so that's fine. I think that it's done okay. I guess it's less who it is and more what the ultimate motivation was behind it.
Okay.
Like I just wasn't all that surprised or taken aback by it like I expected to be, because I was by a number of other things. And that's the thing. I think that the overall structure of this is not as good as the details.
Okay.
And it's that kind of movie. So I'd say the best thing about this is Liam Neeson's performance, but Liam Neeson is always good. I'm feeling it on this. Did you never focus
I did
on
not.
it?
I figured we'd do it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm feeling it on this one, but it's pretty by the numbers. I didn't think it was brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I think you were a lot more impressed than I was. I've seen a lot of movies like this, and so but I will say it's better than some other kind of like airplane suspense thrillers I've seen. Like it's better than Air Force One, and it's better than Red Eye, and that's cool. Also, it's not taken on a plane, and a lot of people when they saw previews for this thought it was going to just be taken on a plane. They by the third act go out of their way to make sure that it is not anything like the same scenario without giving anything away. But like Taken was a revenge thriller. This is not a revenge thriller. It's not really that. So anyway, I thought that the whole setup, Brandon, of he's an air marshal who is like who smokes too much, and he has and he has an alcohol addiction. I thought all that was just really kind of typical, and it's okay. I'm not saying that kind of thing can't be done well. I just felt like I've kind of been here and done this before.
And I have not. And so when I saw this movie, I saw it as a fresh face to the idea.
You haven't seen a lot of these kind of thrillers, but you've seen plenty of protagonists who are like rough around the edges because and are kind of like
they smoke, they drink, they're antisocial.
Yeah, and you've seen plenty of that, and that's what I'm saying. I didn't feel like it really brought anything new to the table there.
Okay, sure.
It seemed like that struck me as kind of an excuse to get the ball rolling, where like it needed to do that in order for people to believe that this guy would be capable of being a terrorist.
I gotcha.
And here's the thing. It's not exactly a faulty premise, because ultimately the whole thing is about safety or the lack thereof in public places in America, and the commentary on that was pretty good, though I think they could have. I think it was a little too oversimplified at the end, but here's or not oversimplified, but just like they spend a minute with it. Overall, it's not about exploring that idea, but the thing is, you get so at least they do something with it. At least it's about that. I like that, but I still had a really hard time buying that this guy, being as mentally unstable as he was, would be allowed on airplanes with guns.
And I
never believed that.
That's kind of a point that they even made, but you made a good point.
That's what I'm saying. It is about that, and so. They're almost getting me there, but I still have a really hard time. Do you think this happens? Do you think that
yes.
knowingly the State Department or whatever or whoever it is that I don't know who hires the air marshals, but
think about what's going on this day and age.
Yeah.
They make a good point. You made a good point, and it reminded me. They make a good point about that it's a commentary on. Are we really safe with our public officials?
Right, sure.
And things of that nature. And we see people we see cover-ups all the time. Like, well, the department actually knew about this, but we didn't do anything about it. We thought it might just go away. That's where it drew me in on that
Maybe I'm just too optimistic, and I like to think that we have enough oversight that this kind of thing doesn't happen.
Unfortunately, we have enough oversight, but the oversight's not doing its job in a lot of situations.
Here's the thing. What then was the motivation, though, for whoever is in charge to let this guy keep working? That's the thing I didn't understand. I guess my point is, you cover up things for a reason. The thing is, his boss doesn't believe him from the very beginning that anything is even going on. If nobody trusts this guy, why are they even letting him be an air marshal?
They did not
I
give
don't
us a setup for why they wouldn't trust him. You're absolutely right.
Well, they did. They didn't give us a setup for why they felt like they had to keep him in the employ. That's what I didn't get. Like they don't trust him because everybody knows he's an alcoholic, and
we didn't even get to that until later on.
His backstory and stuff. No, we did. We knew he was an alcoholic from the first frame we saw him on screen, and we also knew from the beginning he started talking to his boss that his boss thought that he was mentally unstable and knew about his personal problems, and that's where I'm calling almost faulty premise. So they're making a point about the fact that this happens, but I didn't buy it in this case.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? That was my big thing with it, and that distracted me through a lot of the movie.
See, if you'd have mentioned that to me earlier on, that might have also been a distraction for me, but I didn't pick up on that. And now that you say it, I can
think it's
totally
there.
see that.
I think I'm right about that.
You are right that that's there.
Yeah.
And what I was talking about, they make a push to kind of justify it in the movie, but you're kind of right, they don't close the gap.
They try to justify it with a message, and that doesn't work, ultimately, is the thing.
You make a good question. I'm wondering if there's just something... I don't think there's anything we missed in that.
I don't think so. Here's the thing, and this is one of the things I like about it. It is a really simple film. And the one thing I wanted to mention, too, that's very positive is there's a lot of levity in this movie. I didn't expect to laugh in this film.
Yeah, indeed.
I thought it was going to be kind of joyless. I thought it was just going to be kind of like nonstop intensity. It isn't that. And I thought that all of the performances were spot on. I thought that everybody had a sense of humor. And or at least most of them had some kind of a sense of humor, and that came out here and there, and I really appreciate it. Everybody seemed kind of real to me.
Well, I
bought
the doctor, I bought the New York cop, I bought the passengers on the plane.
I loved that the doctor wasn't a Muslim stereotype.
Exactly.
And he was racially profiled, and I don't mind that they went there. That could have seemed a lot more cliche than it was.
Well, that was the subterfuge they started out with.
You got 150 people on the plane, you have one Muslim guy who's clearly a Muslim guy, that you know what's going to happen. They handled it pretty tastefully, and also I ended up really liking that guy.
Absolutely.
So I appreciated that. That was cool. And spoiler alert, but he's not the bad guy, and you knew that from there's no way he would be, right? You know what I mean? So that would have been so obvious.
When you first see him, and they make a point of showing him, and they show him several times, he's the first one they show multiple times, and you're automatically going, well, they're not going to go there. I just know they're not going to go there, and that's where I thought, sitting there, I was like, well, he's got something to do with this. But it's not what I think it is.
It's pretty fun as a whodunit sort of story. Like I don't mean like there's a murderer and we got to find the murderer, but we know that
Clue-ish.
It's very. That's what I was going to say. It's very Clue-ish. And so you've got these different people on this airplane that you can that you can kind of separate out by what they look like, and then eventually we find out a lot of their careers and things. Just this kind of surface superficial stuff. And I thought that like I said, everybody did in the script too did a pretty good job of making these people come alive, even though we don't know very much about them.
Exactly.
And I thought that it did a really good job of making us buy them. In fact, some of these people I kind of found more believable as fully fledged people than I did Liam Neeson's character, and Julianne Moore's character is like that. Once we kind of find out a little bit of her backstory at the end, she was really fun and really interesting all the way through the movie.
Absolutely, and I got a clear view of this passenger on the plane. As with some of these others, you get a clear view of kind of what they're all about when they get on the plane, how they fly, how they take
that's really interesting.
Flying.
How much you learn about these people just based on the way they ride in airplanes. And in fact, you're right. A lot of people's personalities, but also backgrounds, come out through the way they behave on an airplane.
Absolutely.
That was all really cool. There's a lot of really nice personal stuff there. This movie was, let me get the name real quick, was directed by I'm gonna butcher this, Wam Colette Sarah, who directed Orphan in I think 2009, which was a movie I just absolutely loathed. I hated that movie.
Really?
So I was really glad to see this guy actually direct something pretty decent. Like I said, it's not brilliant, but it's a pretty good movie. Also directed a movie, a European soccer film called Goal 2 Living the Dream, which, believe it or not, I've not seen this. A couple years ago, and I'm just not through my list, a couple years ago, somebody requested me to do a Rewind United on that film.
Oh yeah.
One of our subscribers that joined the Geeks United Club. That was the movie they want me to. So at some point I'm gonna have to watch another one of this guy's movies.
Oh.
And that's that. So I don't know. We'll see if that's any good. But anyway, and the other thing I wanted to mention is this was scored by John Ottman, who did the score for X2, which is one of my very, very favorite scores of all time. And I thought the score was pretty good. It was pretty background and ambient. I didn't really notice it, but it was fine. But anyway, just wanted to mention him real quick.
Can I say this? That one of my favorite scenes in this movie was one that we either saw it in the preview or it was one that they played around on the talk shows, was where Liam Neeson's kind of floating through the air grabbing a gun.
Yeah.
The conceit for how they do that in the movie,
it's pretty cool,
was great. I loved it. Like, I didn't know how they were going to pull that off. It was even going to actually be in the movie. And then they did that, and I was like, totally believable on that part.
I might have actually enjoyed this movie slightly more had it not been for seeing trailers.
Yeah.
And it is another one of those, it's yet another movie where they tell you too much stuff in the trailer. And
I would agree.
The big thing that I would have left out of the trailer was whether or not Liam Neeson was even the bad guy. And the reason I say that is because they kind of throw you some clues at the beginning, or rather, they're trying to subvert your expectations at the beginning, making you think that perhaps he actually is up to no good from the beginning. When you open a movie with a guy with a gun drinking, you immediately aren't going to trust the guy, and that was kind of the whole point. Is that nobody can trust this guy. Look at what he does on his off hours, and that kind, and also look at his personal history, which I won't go into, but that's a lot of why he is the way he is. It's somewhat of a typical, tragic backstory. And what happens is they spend a good, I think, Brandon, 15 minutes before they ever even tell you he's an air marshal. And if I had been the previews, I would have left all that out. You've got a guy who's concealing a gun. You've got a guy smoking on an airplane and trying to make everybody think that he's not. He's doing a lot of he's doing a lot of covert things. He doesn't want you to know what he's up to. And we need to be suspicious of him from the beginning, because then we can more easily empathize with the passengers when they don't trust him. And that's why I say I wish I hadn't seen previews, because then I wouldn't have known that he wasn't actually going to be the hijacker. Now, we're with him. We're in his head after that, or we're really kind of from the beginning, but they're slowly giving us things visually. So, of course, as soon as we start seeing his cell phone, we know he's not going to he's not the bad guy. But I want to mistrust him up until I know I can, because that's what everybody else does, So the previews sort of ruined that whole dynamic for me.
There's one other thing that kind of drew me out of the movie, and that's the reliance on the 20 minutes. And that was put into the trailers as well. I didn't buy that these things that ended up happening on the plane just happened to correspond with the 20-minute time frame. How would you have felt if they had said someone's going to die in 20 minutes and then it took 15? And then he's like, well, I don't have as much time as I thought I did.
I don't know. It's one of those things where they're trying to distract the audience as much as they are him, and they're trying to make us think that whoever is behind this is this brilliant super genius.
Okay.
And I guess part of the problem I had with the ending is that I didn't buy that the people that pulled this off could really pull it off. I needed a super genius, I guess, is what I'm ultimately saying. I was, as I said, I was reminded of Phone Booth. And Phone Booth had the same kind of ominous voice in the background. Here it's in text messages. This voice, expertly voiced by Kiefer Sutherland, by the way, telling the main character who was played by what is his name, the guy who played Bullseye in Daredevil, Colin Farrell, and he's constantly giving him instructions and telling him he has to do this and this and this, and he's got this great plot, and when you kind of find out a little bit about who it is, you buy that he was capable of it.
Okay.
And what it is here, I'm just not sure I totally buy it. It is cool that, and I don't want to give too much away. There is something about who it ends up being that makes me go, okay, I didn't expect that. But just like who it is not all that impressive.
I'm not gonna go that far and say that, because I felt it was kind of believable to me, just because of the fact that when we see things like this, are they ultimately super geniuses? They're just really good at what they do. I'd say like Osama bin Laden, he wasn't a super genius.
He also
got stuff done.
He also didn't manipulate a person to kill another person 3 seconds before 20 minutes goes off.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
So when you add that into the equation,
never happen.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Okay.
Is that for the very point you just made, is it possible that every time the 20 minutes goes off, that's when a person actually dies? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
I need a super genius.
Once you make that a fact, then you would probably. You just blew me completely out of the water. I respect you for that.
That's all I'm saying.
Seriously. Well, once you put it, because I'm not giving it enough credit that if that were to actually happen, you would need a super genius.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
I'm relying more on the coincidental factor, but I shouldn't be, because that's what happened. So it's a manipulation into a time frame. Yeah, it's a manipulation to the time frame, and if that's fact, and in the scope of the movie, that's fact, then you would want a super genius.
Yeah, anyway, I'm going to say go see it if you like suspense thrillers.
Me too.
I don't think that anybody is going to be, that's used to these kind of movies, that loves these kind of movies, is going to be especially blown away by this one. I think it's kind of middle of the road, but I think it's quite good.
It's not one that I would necessarily need to see a second time, but I definitely say go see it in the theater if you like this type of thing.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching, and Brandon and I will be back with you again next week to review another movie. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
See you later.